that they're changing my voice. So people in the government, right, who are run by rich whites, Jews, and LGBT people, are threatening my father's health, and they're persecuting me, etc. So keep in mind that the book of Judges was made for people to understand why I'm right. It's even called Judges. And in Judges 3, God left the other nations around the Israelites to teach them warfare. That's what it says. But this video is something that includes other ideas as well. And we're going to zoom in on Judges 21:5. But before we do, let's look at Judges 20:38. The Israelites had arranged with the ambush that they should send a great cloud of smoke up from the city. So what happens in Judges 20? Okay, the Benjaminites are about to be punished. The Benjaminites are a tribe of the Israelites for refusing to stand against sexual immorality. Okay, somebody had taken in a Jewish person in their city, and that person who took in this other Jewish person was forced to send out their concubine to get raped and killed because he didn't want to give up the traveler who had come into their city that he allowed to stay in his home. And so this led to him chopping up the dead body of his concubine and sending it to the various Israelite tribes, and they're very angry. Okay, like I'm angry with the world, including every race, including the Jews, for refusing to obey God through me. Okay, so the sign was going to be a great cloud of smoke that comes up from the city, which goes back to Christ coming on a cloud to take revenge for all the sin that has occurred on the planet, figuratively speaking, which refers to me striking in the Spirit of God as a sign that the cloud is here, that judgment is here, which connects to Revelation 19, which has to do with the sharp sword of judgment and righteousness and God's martial spirit coming out of my being from God. Okay. So we get to, any questions put in the comments. We get to Judges 21:5. Then all the Israelites asked, who from all the tribes of Israel failed to assemble before the Lord? For they had taken a solemn oath that anyone who failed to assemble before the Lord at Mizpah was to be put to death. It's even called Mizpah, like miss, right? And pa. Anyone who failed to assemble on behalf of God the Father over the issue of reproduction, especially over the issue of true love versus LGBT stuff, Western stuff, all the other conceptions out there, which are basically erotic desire, psychology, social norms, propaganda, falsehood, that they were to be put to death. And anyone with any sense knows the death of the soul and your offspring's souls is much worse than the death of your flesh. Now let's go down to verse 25, which is something I'm going to go over in the next video. In those days, Israel had no king. Everyone did as they saw fit. In those days, Israel had no king. And so what happened? Everyone did as they saw fit. So what's happened here, right? God is teaching them warfare. They end up fighting against one of their own tribes for sexual immorality, for their failure to be holy, their failure to honor the commands of God. So they decide, after they go fight with these people, whoever doesn't assemble, okay, to pray to God, to have a holy communion with God, and Mizpah was to be put to death. And in that same chapter, it goes on to say that in those days, Israel had no king. Everyone did as they saw fit. And that has a lot to do with the order. They're supposed to assemble before a king at Mizpah. The assembly at Mizpah had less efficacy because there was no king. And that's reflected in chapter 20, what have you, in the battle against the Benjaminites, where they took on more casualties. They suffered more casualties than they otherwise would have because they didn't have a king. And God was punishing them for that. So we see a bunch of Jews and whites and Judeo-Christians and all these people, left wing, whatever, assembling specifically for the idea that they refuse a king. It's because they worship the devil, just like the right wing, just like MAGA, right, which is a play on words for a game, and M, second word, them not me, the second word being gay. Okay, and you see how they have this gayish circus way about them? Okay, you should know that I'm right.